The court. We come back to Macon, Georgia after this. In a 9-7 game. As we welcome you into Hawkins Arena here in Macon, Georgia, the Furman Paladins, the Mercer Bears. A couple of teams that could well make a run toward a Southern Conference championship come March in Asheville. I'm with Dean Keener, Pete Hannity with you. Furman jumped out, hitting their first three-point attempts. It's what they do, but Greg Gary and the Mercer Bears looking to protect the home court. They can knock them down from three-point land, and it's a Mercer team that's trying to slow the tempo. The Chattanooga Mocs were picked to win the Southern Conference, but right on their heels, there are the Paladins and the Bears.
Yeah, look, Greg Gary and staff have done a marvelous job since the loss of point guard Neftali Alvarez back in mid-December. Gary has pulled all the right strings, has the Bears in position as we reach the halfway point of league play, and they've particularly been good here. They've taken care of home, 8-1 inside Hawkins Arena, but they've got their hands full against a really good Furman Paladin team.
As you look at the SoCon standings, you could probably go all the way down to UNCG, Wofford, ETSU, as teams that once we get to Asheville, North Carolina in March, could have a shot to get the automatic bid for the NCAA tourney. But the Paladins have weapons like Jalen Slauson, among others, who can hit them. And they've got guards like Alex Hunter and Marcus Jones, a swingman. They've done some damage so far.
Yeah, look, that's what the Furman Paladins do. They take and they make a lot of threes. They average taking 31 per game. With that, they lead the Southern Conference at over 39%. So that's a really good clip. Entering the game, they had made 53 in their last 3 games compared to just 17 for their opponents. A great weapon for this Paladin team.
And you just have to marvel at the fact that they've made 53. Obviously, many more attempts than that. But as we continue on tonight, we'll talk about just how prolific the three-point shooting is, not only for the Furman Paladins, but for several teams and several individuals in the Southern Conference.
Yeah, I mean, if you like the three ball, you've got to like Southern Conference. Now, look, we talked about 53 over the last 3 games, but it's not just the Paladins, right? VMI, the Citadel, and others utilize this more than anybody else. Furman has made more threes than anybody else in Division I basketball.
Let's take a look at our starting lineups for our ball game tonight, brought to you by Chase Freedom Unlimited. And for Bob Ritchie and the Paladins of Furman, they've got a veteran ball club. Mercer Bears, a team that plenty of experience, although several of their players have arrived here within the last couple of seasons. But you talk about a guy like Mike Bothwell and all the basketball he's played at Furman. On the other side, Jalen Johnson, who began his career at Tennessee, then went to Wake Forest, and Felipe Hasse was at South Carolina before he transferred here to the Macon, Georgia school. Paladins looking to build on the advantage. Alex Hunter, right up there in the top 5 in three-pointers attempted and made nationally coming in to this ball game.
Now look, if you haven't seen Southern Conference basketball, you're missing something. Not only this year, the last 3 to 5 years, it's been as good as any outside, what I would say the Power 6. That's Power 5 and the Big East. I mean, this is outstanding basketball with really, really good players.
We see a key matchup just then. It's going to continue throughout the evening as the foul is called on Jalen Slauson of Furman, trying to defend Felipe Hasse.
Jared Hasse, look, he's a guy, and Jalen Slauson, 2 of the best that the Southern Conference has to offer. Both play inside and out. Hasse is a guy that's playing with 3 lungs this year, averaging almost 40 minutes a game.
Anderson off the deflection. And Joe Anderson, who had his career high in the first meeting between these two teams in Greenville, South Carolina, when he scored 15, makes it a 4-point Furman lead.
We won't see much other than man-to-man between both teams.
Jordan Jones from the outside, the freshman who shoots at 39% beyond the arc, and back to a 1-point game. Here's Slauson trying to work inside on Big Shannon. Granter just checked in, and the turnover is forced. Robertson pushing the pace, the blow-by, and the finish.
Boy, a terrific move by Kamar Robertson. Great body control to finish that.
Another try from the outside by Foster. He's off to a good start. And Marcus Foster puts Furman back in front by a couple. 9 so far, 9 to the Paladins, 14.
Pete, this is a big game for both teams to try to stay pace with Chattanooga, or at least toward the top of the Southern Conference as we head into the second part of league play.
Foul will go against Foster. And Marcus Foster with the personal foul. So a third on Furman. Greg Gary, previous head coaching stop at Centenary. That was about a decade ago, but when he arrived there in his second season, they announced their program would drop down to Division III. So he came to the Mercer program after many years under Matt Painter at Purdue. What a savvy coach he is. What a matchup of head coaches we have tonight from an X's and O's standpoint. Foster leaves it short. The tap out by Slauson lands in the hands of Mercer's Sean Walker. And another foul against the Paladins. Harrison picks up his first.
Two outstanding coaches. You know, Greg Gary, you've already talked about it, was a great player in his own right at Tulane back in the early 90s. Bob Ritchie, he has helped grow this Furman program, first as an assistant to Nico Medved, and then he took over 5 years ago. He now sits at 104-41. I mean, he's just a terrific person, terrific coach. You talked about Greg Gary, too, like the influence that Matt Painter had on him after 8 years in West Lafayette, Indiana. These guys, along with a lot of others in the league now and others that have moved on, this has just been a haven of good players and good coaching over the last decade.
Turnover by Shannon Grant of Mercer. So Furman a chance to build in the 2-point advantage. Hunter will get a lot of attention. Slauson off the pump fake, and Grant grabbed him. And Slauson was about to take it down the lane.
That's a tough matchup for Shannon Grant out on the perimeter. Slauson's got a ton of experience out there, knows how to get you on his hip and get in foul trouble. Although I like a lot of things about Grant. He's worked at his game. He's gotten better shape. He's a guy that really limited minutes a year ago, and now he's a major part of their front court.
That's going to be a tough matchup for Grant throughout the night. Hunter can't get it to go. Slauson running down the long rebound. What the Paladins do, they're not a great rebounding team, neither is Mercer for that matter, but they tend to get long rebounds on the offensive end. And a held ball will be the call. It'll stay in Furman's end. Take a timeout here in Macon, Georgia. Those of you watching on CBSSports.com, our streaming coverage will conclude after this commercial break. Here in Macon, Georgia, head on over to CBS Sports Network. Back to Macon, Georgia. A 2-point lead for the visiting Furman Paladins on the Mercer Bears with Dean Keener, Pete Hannity with you. So far, we've seen pretty intense battle on each end of the court. A couple of teams we showed you near the top of the Southern Conference standings, but Mercer with already a loss in the regular season to Furman and trying to hang near the top, trying to protect the home court. A really important game for them, I think.
It's critical for both teams, but you're exactly right. I mean, they've got to maintain home court advantage. They're 8-1, as we mentioned here this season. But if they're going to stay at the top, and what you want to try to finish in the top 6 so that you're not playing 4 games in 4 days come tournament time. But yeah, but it's equally big for Furman. Look, they're trying to keep pace with a Chattanooga team that they've already lost to once and won earlier today.
What a touch pass. Slauson down low, and Mike Bothwell with the bucket gets into the scoring column. Jalen Slauson, among the many things he does well, is he has piled up the assists this season.
He's just an incredible story. I mean, he only scored 19 points in his first season.
Did we tell you he leads the SoCon in steals, and almost with as artistic a finish as you could ask for? But another foul on Shannon Grant of Mercer.
Yeah. Look, watch this again. I mean, you see Slauson with the screen, and then he slips just enough and a nice touch pass. Scored just 19 points his freshman year. He's coming off another monster game and the win against VMI. Hey, he's just a force multiplier. He makes everybody better.
Bob Ritchie, fastest coach in Furman history to 100 wins. Did so in less than 150 games, and one of the top 10 in active winning percentage, and he's the youngest on the top 10 list. He begins this Saturday as percentage points behind number 9, Tom Izzo. And some real good company up that active wins chart, winning percentage chart among college head coaches.
Been shooting it really well in conference play. 5 of 11 behind the arc in his last 4 games. He's made a couple here today. Although tough matchup with Hasse, right? I mean, Hasse may not be the flashiest player in the Southern Conference, but he's arguably one of the best the league has to offer, and that's what he does well right there.
As good of a outside shooter for a big man that you'll find in the mid-major ranks, really in all of college basketball. Walker saved it to the wrong team. Here's Garrison. Looks in the lane. Good job by the Bears to deny a pass inside to Slauson. Off the lob from Bothwell. Looks like Walker got him on the arm. We'll see Jalen Slauson go to the line at 73% on the season.
Now, the transition defense was really good, but because of a mismatch right there, they recognized it. Kamar Robinson trying to front Slauson. Walker Jr. just too late in the help side to try to come block.
Jalen Slauson, another player who's been around for a while, fourth-year junior for Bob Ritchie's Paladins. His dad played basketball at another Southern Conference school, the Citadel, and here he is, one of the most improved players from when he first arrived at the Greenville, South Carolina school till now.
You see his numbers right there. It bears out. You know, he's a guy that's as good as any here in the Southern Conference in the first part of the league play. You talked about it. He leads the league in steals. He's third in blocks. He's fourth in rebounding. He's not just a scorer, and he's become a better defender this season as well.
He's 43 steals, and we just saw him get number 44 on the year. Has among the top 10 in the NCAA coming into the weekend and all of Division I. Glisson got off to a good start scoring for the Bears, looking to back inside. Ends a drought for Mercer. Furman had been on a 9-0 run. Mercer back within 6.
Again, Glisson's a guy that can be the X factor for the.
So far, they look to get a little bit closer. Playing their 10th home game, they're 8-1 here in Hawkins Arena. Beautiful facility, roughly a decade old or so. And it was about 3,500. They've got a packed house for this ball game here tonight. Garrett Heen knocks it out of bounds. Mercer will keep. And as you see, a nice turnout. Macon, Georgia, in a part of the state of Georgia known as Middle Georgia. And Mercer bills themselves as the University of Middle Georgia.
An hour and 15 minutes south of Atlanta. Beautiful campus. Both, by the way. Furman, just a gorgeous campus as well, like so many other Southern Conference members.
Listen, with 4 on the shot clock, couldn't get it to go, and a foul inside. Hasse was battling for the rebound with Furman's Tyrese Huey, who picks up the personal.
You know, the Southern Conference has been so good recently, but look what Greg Gary's done in the state. You talked about being in Middle Georgia. They have the best record, and by the way, they beat Georgia Tech, Georgia State, and Georgia Southern a year ago. Came back and beat Georgia State, Georgia Southern, and Kennesaw this year. Do they call themselves the champs of Georgia? They've been really good the last 3 years.
Hasse, the soft touch. First points in the game for Felipe Hasse, originally from Chile. Over 15 a contest to lead this Mercer team.
The guy had started his career and played at South Carolina, but has really found a home here at Mercer the last couple of years.
Cross-court pass, Huey kicks in the corner. Joe Anderson, that's what he does. He was a great high school scorer in Maryville, Tennessee. Leads the Furman team at nearly 50% beyond the arc.
Yeah, his numbers are way up this year. A lot of confidence. He's kind of the heir apparent to Alex Hunter. But give Huey a lot of credit. He had a good shot. He made the assist for the great shot.
Mercer's trailed by as many as 8 in the opening half. Wow. Far from the basket, Tyrese Huey picking up the personal.
The Paladins share the ball as well as anybody. Watch Bothwell. He sees out of the corner of his eye. He sees Huey, who makes the pass in the corner. Look, this is a team that assists on almost 65% of their shots. By far and away, that leads the Southern Conference. I mean, to give you some perspective, coaches want to assist on about 54 to 55% of their shots. Again, the Paladins at 65. They're sharing the rock.
17th foul on the Paladins, so Felipe Hasse, 85% from the line this season. He's third in the SoCon. Second year playing for the Bears. What an addition he has been to Greg Gary's program.
Been rock solid at both ends. And what you don't see there are the minutes per game. I mean, averaging over 37 minutes a game. He's playing like he's got 3 lungs. And a lot of it's out of necessity. There's a limited bench for the Bears right now.
Slauson gives to Alex Hunter. Hunter's closing in on the all-time three-point record at Furman. Anderson. Shot clock under 10. J.P. Pegues, a freshman who's really come on of late for the Paladins. Slauson hit a three from about that spot on the floor earlier, missing badly. And back over to Mercer.
I credit the Bears defense just being really solid right there. Good rotations, good communication, and they can switch with Glisson and Hasse. They can switch 4-5 there without any, downside to it. Slauson just saw the shot clock at 2 and had to jack something up.
Glisson, the junior, hands off to Robertson. Hasse dangerous from the wing, deflected. Oh, and almost a great save for the possession by Jalen Johnson. Here come the Paladins. Hunter, quick move. Heen underneath, and a reverse for Garrett Heen. His first bucket, a 6'9" sophomore out of Charlotte.
His numbers were up from a year ago in the preseason or the non-conference, but hasn't played as much here. That's a good start for him.
Another quick move to the basket by Kamar Robertson. Junior from just outside of Atlanta, but Heen gets behind the Mercer D. And I believe a delay of game warning against Garrett Heen. 7:37 to go, opening half. We're in Macon, Georgia. Bob Ritchie and Furman looking to get another win on the road in the SoCon. Basketball on CBS Sports Network, presented by Chase Freedom Unlimited. Here in Macon, Georgia, it's Mercer and Furman. Of course, NFL Championship weekend. Getting ready to find out who's going to the Super Bowl tomorrow morning at 10 Eastern. Join your favorite NFL crew as they highlight the divisional round and get you ready for the weekend action with the final 4 teams battling it out for a spot in the big game. Watch it's that other pregame show right here on CBS Sports Network. And with Dean Keener, Pete Hannity with you. Lots going on away from the field in the NFL today relative to a certain legend who's brought home 7 Lombardi trophies in his career. Folks have probably been following that. Here in Hawkins Arena, Furman Paladins have led pretty much throughout this opening half, and I think, Dean, playing with the pace they want to. They want up-tempo. Mercer wants to try to have more of a half-court game.
Absolutely. In the last couple of possessions, you saw that kind of an up and down. That's where Furman's comfortable. They're not going to get away from shooting a 3, but they do want more possessions than Mercer. I think for Mercer right now, they've really got to watch the turnovers. 7 already here through the first 12 and a half minutes.
Listen on the feed from Robertson. Johnson out high. He's trying to get into the flow. Jalen Johnson, their second leading scorer. But so far, has not been able to get into the scoring column. Anderson, though, another 3. Joe Anderson had a stretch of games where he was scoring in double figures for them early in conference play. Had the 15 against Mercer. Really hadn't been heard from since that contest in early January. But a couple of big baskets off the bench and the biggest lead of the evening for the Furman Paladins.
If you remember a year ago, Bob Ritchie was singing Joe Anderson's praises.
Walker underneath. Going tough for Glisson. Slauson on the rejection. And the Paladins take it away. 2-on-1. Hunter the lob. Heen couldn't finish.
I think Heen liked to have that over and just lay it in. He was just a bit too far out to try to stretch and dunk that. Not a critical time, but certainly a time where the Bears kind of got to find some rhythm offensively, and it may start right there with Hasse.
With the one-hander off the glass, Felipe Hasse brings his team back within 8. He's got half a dozen. Slauson underneath. Garrison. And he'll go to the line. What a great look that time inside for the big fella, Jalen Slauson.
Certainly was, and I'm not sure how Garrison got so open. I mean, you kind of tag him as a shooter. But boy, the initial pass to Slauson, and then Garrison does what good players do. If you're overplayed, you go back door, regardless if your bread and butter is a three-point shot. Nice basketball play there by the transfer from Division II Drury, who has settled into Division I really well.
Second on their team from the line at 76%. He had 22 in their home win on Wednesday night against VMI with some big points down the stretch. He hit a 3 to put them ahead to stay, as the Keydets, who are tough out no matter where you play them, had Furman on the ropes deep into the second half. Conley Garrison doing what he does. You really don't notice he's on the floor, and then all of a sudden, just like that, big basket, Big steal, does a lot of things that don't show up in the stat sheet.
Oh, he does. Look, he's a fifth-year guy. He's been around the block, scored almost 1,800 points at Drury, so he knows what to do to win. He makes winning plays, and just like that guy right there.
Slauson, yet another steal for a guy who was top 10 in the nation coming in. Foster had to go to the bench with those 2 personal fouls, but back out there. Garrison kicks it out high. Bullet pass underneath. Foster can't get it to go home, though. Another great look from out high by Slauson.
Slauson's just so comfortable out there. I mean, nothing speeds him up. He lets the game come to him. He's really not the most vocal guy for the Paladins. He's clearly one of their leaders.
Johnson at 6'6". It'll be a tough issue matching up for opposing defenses in the Southern Conference. Grant at 6'10", 280. Tried to back in, but another turnover. That'll be a 9th on the Mercer team here in the opening half. They came into the night averaging just 13.
Well, and that's been a problem as of late. That's one of the reasons that Greg Gary's group lost at Samford last Wednesday. They went on the road to Birmingham. They had 19 turnovers. And it's just hard to win basketball games, particularly league games where you're so well scouted when you have 19 turnovers. They only average 13 a game, and that's about where you need to be. They're not trending that way right now with 9.
Paladins can take their largest lead of the opening half on this possession. Bothwell to Garrison, catch and shoot. Strong rebound inside by the freshman Jordan Jones, who grew up really not all that far from here, this campus, where he now plays his ball. Jackson Greco from just outside of Atlanta, just into the game, as is Jovan Tucker with the ball for Mercer.
Greg Gary trying to get some guys off the bench to find the right combination. Feeding the big fella again inside.
Let's see if they have the foul on Bothwell on the floor. I believe that'll be the case.
Shannon Grant's a guy that if he will continue to work at the pace he's right now, he's a second-year guy out of Alabama. He's got a bright future. You know, sometimes you just can't measure what's inside that ticker. Does he want to do it? The coaches say he does.
71% from the line, so very good number for a big guy. They got him here out of Sylacauga, Alabama, just the 2nd player in the last decade from his high school program to go to a Division I school.
Nice touch. He's got good hands. He's got great feet. It's just a matter of making sure he doesn't get stuck between the free throw line sometimes.
Bothwell, so strong inside, bounced off of Grant and still got it to go home.
Yeah, that's just a pure score. That's just, there's no play to that. That was just an individual move right there. Say time and time again, Bothwell, as good a guard as the Southern Conference has to offer.
Bears again down by 10. Johnson, strong move, and a strong rebound inside by Huey. And it'll be Paladins ball with a timeout on the court. Joe Anderson comes off the bench, and pretty much when he steps on the court, the ball is his. He loves to fire from afar. He does it so well, and the Paladins lead by 10. On CBS Sports Network, presented by Chase Freedom Unlimited. And here in Macon, Georgia, the Furman Paladins a 10-point lead
game, right? And they've got 11 fast break points to just 2 for the Bears. So yeah, it bears out here in the early going. And then compound that with 9 turnovers for Mercer. Yeah, that's why you've got a 10-point lead right now for the Paladins.
Ball actually stays in Mercer's end. They determined that during the break. And yes, you did just see the Braves huggable, lovable mascot blooper here as a guest. I assume he's on his World Champions Tour.
That's exactly right. And as a native of Georgia, yeah, he has made his rounds around the state and just about every basketball arena.
Hasse off the lob inside. That's what the Paladins do so well. They deflect. They try to get 30 deflections a game, and Bothwell did that perfectly.
That's exactly right. Deflections can be steals, block shots, tips. But the more you can get, it's going to lead to turnovers or opportunities or less opportunities for your opponent.
Garrison falling down with Walker and Hasse around him. Held ball to stay in the Furman end.
It was a bit of a quick held ball there by the official. I think Felipe Haase, he's like, man, I was getting ready to get that and turn in transition. Regardless, it leaves just 10 seconds on the shot clock.
Furman 6 of 14 beyond the arc. Greg Gary telling us for the game he's trying to force as many 15-foot mid-range jumpers as he possibly can and try to avoid just that, a kick out, although Garrett Heen can't get it to fall for the Paladins. Lamar Robertson and Jackson Greco out high for Mercer. Haase, as soon as he touches it, sees the double team. Skip pass, Greco. One and done for Mercer.
That's what Greco does best. He is a three-point shooter, much like Garrison for the Paladins, just couldn't get it to go down.
Bothwell back outside Slauson. Hunter able to knock it down. Alex Hunter now 1 of 3 beyond the arc. Top 5 in the nation, both in makes and attempts from three-point land.
He makes 3.5 a game, and he's a pass-first point guard.
And knocks away. Slauson coming up with it for the Paladins. He almost lost it. Furman's biggest lead of the night. 13-point advantage. There's under 2.5 to go before the break. Hunter to Garrison. Another 3 from outside for the Paladins. And now Greg Gary just has to stop the momentum train. That is Furman. They have built a 16-point lead on the road here in Macon, Georgia, against the Bears of Mercer.
So at AT&T, everyone gets our best deals.
Aren't others doing that?
Others say that, but not everyone gets the best deal. Like, what if I give you a lollipop? Then I give you our best lollipop.
That's not fair.
At AT&T, we think it's only fair that all customers get our best deals. And you get a choice of plans.
She said everyone.
It's not complicated. Only AT&T gives both new and existing customers our same best deals, like up to $800 off our most popular smartphones.
Mercer trying to simply whittle this thing down. Dean, look at the three-point comparison so far, and it tells the story of a 16-point game.
Absolutely. I mean, that and the turnovers by Mercer at 9 to just 2 for Furman's the difference. But also, not to be forgotten, in that 8 of 16, they're sharing the ball. I mean, they've got, 10 assists on these made baskets. So Furman is making the extra pass. They're finding the open man, and they're knocking down shots. That's why they're one of the best teams in the Southern Conference, and really maybe one of the best teams you haven't heard of in mid-major basketball if you haven't followed the Southern Conference.
Over 2.5 minutes without scoring for Mercer. Bob Ritchie saw that ball go off the leg of his guard, Mike Bothwell, and Bothwell had a delayed reaction, suddenly thinking he might be able to run it down. 11 on the shot clock when that ball was knocked out.
You talk about Bothwell. I mean, this is a guy that's approaching 1,200 career points. Hunter already almost at 1,300, and before we get to Asheville for the tournament, Slauson will be very close.
Looked like Glisson took a step, and then he is rung up on his second move for the travel. And the turnovers mount now, 10 for Greg Gary's team.
Well, and they're dead ball turnovers, so at least Mercer gets to set their defense, but regardless, they're not getting shot opportunities.
Haase picking up his first personal foul as he bumped into Heen.
There's a comfort level right now with Furman. This team's been together, save Conley Garrison, who joined them this summer. But, I mean, these guys have played a lot of games. You know, I know in this day and age of super seniors, guys getting an extra year, there's going to be records broken for most games played. But this is Alex Hunter's 146th college basketball game. 112 start.
Down the lane goes Slauson.
My goodness, there's not much that stops me from talking, but that put an exclamation to a big run that Furman is on right now.
We've seen that a time or two out of him. Walker hung up. Haase. And battling inside for the rebound was Johnson. And they're going to get him for coming over the back of Hunter. Jalen Slauson, such an athletic player.
Well, we talk about it. Look, I said it earlier. He's a force multiplier. He makes everybody around him better. He does it at the defensive end, the offensive end. But look, he's got the athleticism to finish at the rim like that, he's got a chance to play at another level after he finishes his time in Greenville, South Carolina.
Alex Hunter, fifth-year senior from Raleigh, North Carolina. First miss from the line for the Paladins in 7 attempts, but we'll set it back up off the Heen rebound. Under a minute to play before the half. Slauson into the corner. Heen.
That did a victory lap.
And the lead grows to 20 in the opening half. And now Heen coming out and committing the personal. So Furman now 6 of 7 on free throws when they beat Mercer in downtown Greenville, South Carolina back on January 8th. They were 23 of 26 from the line. Mercer was 9 of 11. And it was a 15-point Furman win. But so far, Bob Ritchie's team has built this lead simply on the strength of their half-court offense and a defense that's forced 12 turnovers.
Yeah, and that's what Furman can do to you. You talk so much about the threes that they take, right? 31 a game and shooting at almost a 40% clip. But they can challenge you off the bounce, which puts pressure on your defense. And they find their way into the bonus really early in most halves.
You see the differential as we wind down here in half number 1. Paladins looking to extend a 12-0 run. And Slauson with the travel. 4th turnover in the opening half for the Furman Paladins. Coming up, don't miss AT&T at the half with Brent Stover, Wally Serbiak, and Sheldon Mack, along with Seth Davis. Coming up at the break, AT&T at the half.
You'd like to try to get a basket right here if you're if you're Mercer. Just something to feel good about. And really in a half that's been dominated, especially the last 10, 12 minutes by Furman.
Robertson on his way to the basket. Fouled by Bothwell as Slauson came over for the rejection.
Kamar Robertson showing really good explosiveness here. Said earlier, watch it here again. He challenges Bothwell, and while he can't finish at the rim, he gets by him. He's been hindered by that ankle injury, but showing no effects here in the first 20 minutes.
Use it or lose a timeout for Bob Ritchie, and we've been impressed with the speed of Kamar Robertson, the junior guard, and he is dealing with an ankle injury. We'll take a timeout as well here in Macon. Bob Ritchie trying for career win number 105 in his 5th season. Guiding the Furman Paladins, a native of the Palmetto State of South Carolina, and he's been around Furman for quite a while. You noted earlier in the telecast, Dean, that he was under Nico Medved, who did a great job returning Furman to a Southern Conference contender status, and then Ritchie has taken it to another level.
Yeah, they were 23-12 in Medved's last year before he went to Drake. Quick stop before now. What he's doing at Colorado State in the Mountain West is not surprising, outstanding work. But think about what you just said, 105 wins in 5 seasons, and that's a COVID year last year.
Back-to-back 25-win season just a few years ago. Bothwell was trying to add to the advantage at the break. It's still sizable for the Furman Paladins. They're up by 19 on the road. They're trying to improve to 6-6 away from their home Timmons Arena. Welcome back to college basketball on CBS Sports Network, presented by Chase Freedom Unlimited. We're in Macon, Georgia. Here at the half, the Furman Paladins, a dominant first 20 minutes, a 44-25 lead on the road against the Mercer Bears. We welcome you back into Hawkins Arena with Dean Keener, Pete Hannity with you. A Furman team that likes to dictate tempo and flow with their defense. That was evident in the opening half.
Yeah, it was. They did everything that everything Furman basketball does. They took threes, they made threes, but they had deflections and steals that they then turned into points. 11 points off of steals and transition. They were really flawless.
Now let's take a look at some of the first half action. Paladins building roughly a 20-point lead late in the opening half. Now, you mentioned turnovers, 17-3 on points off turnovers, but assists to baskets made has also been big.
It was 11 assists on 15 made baskets. They just were really, really good. They were dialed in after about the first 4 minutes. You saw Slauson on the touch pass. You saw Pegues on the extra pass, and then Hunter on the dump down. We could have showed that time and time again.
And our first half stats brought to you by Emergency. Mercer shooting 41% from the field, but again, when Furman's hitting 50% beyond the arc, it tells a big story on how things have transpired to this point.
And those turnovers a big story as well. Look, 5 less shots taken by the Bears, and they just didn't get to the line enough. I'm sure Greg Gary has some things that he can counter with, but the biggest thing right now is just keep their heads up, and they got to chip away at this thing, possession by possession, and limit turnovers.
So Greg Gary probably said that to his team in the halftime locker room. What else do you think the veteran coach had to say?
Well, you got to feed it inside. They're going to have to take and make some threes, but you got to get some inside touches to collapse that Furman defense.
An early miss by Jalen Johnson. Not been able to get their second leader scorer going. He has yet to get points in this game. Hunter for the Paladins. Underneath, Garrison. Defended by Walker. Out on the wing, Foster. Ball deflected out high. Foster. Hasse got a hand on it. Felipe Hasse coming in. 11 blocks on the season. A stop for Mercer. Glisson's got the size advantage on the 2 trying to defend him. It's Johnson coming across the lane. Second time they've gone to Johnson out of the locker room. That's probably also part of the message.
Well, you got to get him going a little bit. Absolutely. I mean, he's a talented offensive scorer. But they went inside to Glisson, and just as he saw the double, kind of that bluff and retreat by Garrison, Johnson was able to cut to the basket. Nice possession right there.
Conley Garrison hits another 3. He is a perfect. Seems to be perfect so far in the game. He's now 2 of 3 beyond the arc, but boy, he has really just played a stellar ball game in a lot of ways.
Well, he's just got such perfect form, right? I mean, the follow through, the rotation, always on balance. He's a backbreaker. Boy, when Mercer tried to need a basket, can't counter.
And the rebound off the miss, Bothwell looking to push the pace.
Garrison's a guy that always has his shoulders squared to the basket, hands ready to shoot it. There he goes again.
Taken off the floor. Jones, the freshman, crossing over on the 5th-year senior Hunter, and a nice move.
Boy, Jordan Jones has really stepped up. We talked early in the first half about a kid who didn't really play much. He scored 7 points in the non-conference, and because of the injury to starting point guard Neftali Alvarez and really some nagging ankle injuries to Kamar Robertson, Jordan Jones has been thrust into a major role.
Slauson, who is apt to shoot it from outside. Hunter will take him as well and make him.
Well, that's interesting. Hunter, his shot isn't the prettiest. It looks a little bit of a push at the end. It's a little flat, doesn't have the arc and trajectory of, say, a Conley Garrison, but you said it in the first half. He's going to become Furman's all-time three-point maker. That's incredible when you talk about the guys they've had.
Bothwell knocked it away. He'll get it wide open. Paladins building on their biggest lead of the night so far, up by 23.
Well, and he's got a little chuckle. You see right there, Garrett Keene, if he had one of those dunk cards, it would be a 0. You know, the dunk contest, his teammates wanted him to hammer it home.
Jones, a freshman point guard, has really seen his role increase. Throws it away. This time, Slauson. A lob. Bothwell. Layups worked just fine, although he really didn't have the angle to throw it home. And just like that, the Furman Paladins continuing here early in the second half where they left off in the first. Greg Gary recognizing that, the Mercer coach will go ahead and use a timeout. Mike Bothwell, all kinds of style, but not necessarily always with flash.
It doesn't necessarily matter. Bob Ritchie, he's happy. Doesn't matter. They don't ask how, they ask how many. Bothwell and the Paladins up big.
Tomorrow night at 8 Eastern, hit the dirt with CBS Sports Network as we head out west for the Wrangler Long Live Cowboys Classic. Catch PBR Unleash the Beast right here on the 24-hour home of CBS Sports. She is hoping she gets to wave those shakers a whole lot more as this second half continues. The home team, the Mercer Bears, in a deep hole against the team just ahead of them in the Southern Conference standings here early on in the second half, the Furman Paladins.
Yeah, the Paladins opened, a big lead at halftime, 44-25, and now 10-4 here in the second half. And again, it's kind of the same story. Turnovers by the Bears, and with a major piece of Greg Gary's puzzle gone, the Bears have found a way to adapt in the backcourt until today, and they've really struggled here through the first, 24 minutes or so.
Hasse, strong move on Hunter, who'll be called for the foul. At the start of that play, you notice Kamar Robertson, number 1 for the Mercer team, took a pass, landed the wrong way on a left ankle that's really been hurting him. Reached down and kind of attended to it, but he stays in there. We'll see if that's a factor moving forward. They need him to provide some offense, and that time Hunter again whistle for the personal.
You're not seeing it. That's a great out-of-bounds play. Greg Gary, a masterful X&O tactician, particularly at the offensive end. And obviously time he spent with Matt Painter at Purdue, but in his own right, he's been good for a long time.
Hunter, the starting point guard for Furman, has 3 personal fouls, but of course you see the advantage right now, 25. Robertson with a hand in his face. Johnson, strong inside. He's a guard, but 6'6", 195. So a 3rd foul in a short space here against the Paladins.
Yeah, one of the few things that we haven't seen positive for the Furman Paladins, but everything stays in Furman's favor. Furman up big. Missing something, not only this year, the last 3 to 5 years.
Cross-court pass, Huey kicks in the corner. Joe Anderson, that's what he does.
He does it at the defensive end, the offensive end. But look, he's got the athleticism to finish at the rim like that.
All Furman so far tonight here in Macon, Georgia. Hawkins Arena. Paladins up 54-29. Jalen Slauson and Furman on the Mercer Bears. A 22-5 run currently going back to the late stages of the opening half. They led big at the break, 44-25, and Bob Ritchie's team, other than a few fouls in that recent stretch, has been almost flawless so far tonight.
Yeah, again, doing what they do best. They're 2 of 4 behind the arc. They haven't turned the ball over. Conversely, at Mercer now just 2 of 13 behind the arc for the game. Greg Gary's group has turned it over 14 times. Maybe those free throws will get Jalen Johnson going just a little bit, just his 3rd and 4th point of the night for a guy who comes in averaging almost 15 a game.
Joe Anderson running the point. Heen out of the timeout. Ritchie going to his bench. Pegues. Anderson was 5 of 6 beyond the arc in the first meeting. A Furman win up in Greenville, South Carolina between these two. He's 2 of 2 tonight. And the turnover by the freshman, Pegues.
I like Joe Anderson a lot. Right? You think about the lineage of point guards for Furman. I mean, you go Stephen Kroon to John Davis III to Alex Hunter, and now the heir apparent Joe Anderson.
Paladin shows some full court pressure. Furman a couple of weeks ago lost that heartbreaker at Chattanooga by 2. Foster had a chance to tie it, force overtime late. In the 3 games since, though, other than getting a little bit of a run for their money the other night at home against VMI, they have been a team that has won decisively in the 3 games. Knocked away by Heen. Garrison. Hasse over to defend. Good job recovering by Mercer. Shovel underneath. And the finish by Tyrese Huey, freshman for this Furman team out of Columbus, Ohio.
And yet another example of just sharing the basketball. You know, the go-to guy for Furman is the open guy. I mean, they've got 3 big players in Hunter, Bothwell, and Slauson. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter. They share the basketball as well as anybody in the country.
Huey got the rejection on one end, can't hit the jumper. Victor Bafuto has just checked in, one of the backup post players for the Mercer team. Bears really have not had a run in this game. They did briefly come from half a dozen down in the opening half to lead by a point, but since then, all Furman. Robertson, quick first step, inside on Heen. Deep in the paint pass, shot clock at 7. Jones tried to find Bafuto. There is another deflection, this time by Heen of Furman.
Deflection leads to a steal, leads to a turnover, and it's live ball. And here comes Furman again.
No look, nice feed, Anderson. Heen fouled on his way to the bucket.
The way the Paladins share the basketball, it's fun to watch. I mean, there can be times where 4 and sometimes 5. Look at this. Garrison to Anderson the extra pass, and then inside for the basket. I mean, that's just really good basketball. That's not necessarily a play that Bob Ritchie drew up, but that's hours of practice and film watching, and to get your guys the right culture to where, again, the go-to guy's the open guy. It's not about me. Watch this last pocket pass here. Joe Anderson, and then the pick and roll by Heen. He's thinking dunk. Again, just good, solid, fundamental basketball. Nothing fancy, but it'll win you a lot of basketball games, and we've seen that over the years, Pete, as we've done Furman games.
Paladins coming in having won 7 of their 9 SoCon games, but playing with as much flow. Bob Ritchie has to be feeling about as good about this performance as he had any of the previous 9 in conference play.
Yeah, you just made the comment that they lost that tough one. Now there's another steal.
That time Anderson on the bad pass. Huey, I don't think he was expecting it. Underneath Heen.
Well, yeah, there's not much more you can say. I mean, it's the turnovers, the threes, it sound like a broken record. But going back to the closed loop, you're talking about the loss at Chattanooga for Furman, and you know that they've got that return date to Timmons Arena circled in a couple of weeks. But since then, they've been dialed in, and this is just an extension. This will be now their 4th win in a row since that tough loss in the Scenic City.
Shot clock under 10. Robertson, Walker driving on Huey. Strong move, couldn't finish. Bafuto gets the rebound. Robertson, nice feed by the big guy to Kamar Robertson for another bucket.
Now, what I'll tell you, I've done and watched a lot of Mercer basketball over the years. And there's another extra pass. Shot can't go by Anderson, but you just don't see Mercer losing like this very often. And yes, they're self-inflicted in some respects with the turnover, but a lot of it has to do with this Paladins team. They are running on all cylinders as they kind of turn the corner into the second half of conference play.
And for the most part, Bob Ritchie of Furman puts his starters back on the floor. Greg Gary of Mercer has gone deep to his bench. Bottom left of your screen, Harrison Drake seeing some action here. Just under 13 to go in regulation. Slauson began the scoring on the night with a 3. Now Bothwell and Bafuto. Nice job by the 6'10 native of Brazil. In transition, Walker. No reset with Robertson. Victor Bafuto, 5th-year senior, gives to Drake. Irvon Tucker, we saw him briefly during the opening half. And a foul out high by Slauson.
Well, Bafuto just is not a guy that has a lot of game experience. Game's still a little fast for the big fella, but he hasn't been able to find his rhythm here coming into the game to where just post up and demand the ball, if not for a scoring opportunity, but to let the defense play around you, see what settles. Can you find a three-point shooter? But he's kind of just drifting out on the perimeter.
Second foul on Slauson. Tucker on the drive, try to get it inside of Bafuto, but Bothwell really good at reacting. We've seen that so much out of the Cleveland, Ohio native. Mike Bothwell defensively in his career. He and Slauson, as good as anyone in this conference at denying the pass inside.
And I'll tell you what he does. He plays defense before his man gets the ball. He's locked and loaded at all times.
Robertson from the elbow. Bafuto tried to push it to a teammate, but out of bounds it goes, and the Furman Paladins will get it back. They're up big here in Macon, Georgia. A SoCon Saturday. Chattanooga Mocs picked up another road win today in Charleston, South Carolina against the Citadel. They sit atop the Southern Conference. Furman looking like they're going to keep pace, and still with a game at home against Chattanooga coming up later in the season, as the teams picked 1 and 2 in the Southern Conference sit right there. But boy, Chattanooga, we've seen them a little bit this year, including a couple weeks ago. Very impressive team led by one of the top mid-major players in the country in Malachi Smith.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Malachi Smith, I mean, he is, as they say, appointment TV, a talented guard, but he's not the only guy on that team. David Jean-Baptiste, a guy who had missed some games early in conference play, is now back. Sylvia DeSouza, the transfer from Kansas. They've got a lot of pieces on that Chattanooga team. You see that ranking, that net, the NCAA evaluation tool, it's pretty gaudy. 18-4 record. Look, I'm not ready to tell you that they're an at-large team, but hypothetically, if the Mocs run the rest of the regular season and win the first 2 games and make it to Monday night in Asheville and happen to lose, they would finish 30-5. So certainly, that is something to monitor, but first things first, they've got a long way to go because they've got the Furman and Paladins right on their heels, and that will be a heck of a game back in Timmons Arena.
Chattanooga's best non-conference win coming against VCU. Robertson the steal, Slauson trailing, count the basket. That's a tough guy to try to run away from. And back to Chattanooga, they beat VCU, I believe, on the road in the non-conference. That's their best win. Of course, you saw Virginia Commonwealth get a tight win on the road against their rival Richmond in the game before us here on CBS Sports Network. They're an impressive team out of a league that's going to be a multi-bid league, so that's going to help. But again,
and that's on the heels of the Davidson win that VCU had just the other night, who was undefeated in A-10 play.
Ended the nation's longest active winning streak, but the number of quad 1 win opportunities obviously diminish as conference play goes on.
No question. And they had a couple of other opportunities, Chattanooga, Murray State, and Belmont, although no shame in losing those 2. But Bob Ritchie and the Paladins are going to have something to say about the regular season. I mean, there's a long way to go. This is a team that, we've talked, they've beaten Louisville. They darn near beat Mississippi State. I mean, could have had the Bulldogs, as you see now, a 3 by Sean Rocker, just trying to help Mercer inch back into this. But, as much as we want to talk about the 44 net for the Mocs, their record, look, I'm going to tell you, the championship very well could go through the Furman and Paladins if they continue to play like they have here this evening.
Tucker the rebound off the Slauson miss. Furman begins the day at 77 in the net, second in the SoCon. Another strong move to the bucket by Robertson. Again, Slauson nearby, but he'll pick up his 3rd personal foul.
Watch the drive again. I mean, Robinson, again, we've seen him kind of limp just a little bit, but boy, he's had explosiveness to the rim in both halves. I keep saying it, but if you're tuning in for the first time and you're watching Mercer and you look at the score, look, they're playing without arguably I don't know if he's the best, but he's one of the 2 or 3 best point guards in the Southern Conference. Neftali Alvarez, who broke his ankle back in mid-December in a game against Coastal Carolina. The hope is that he will come back at the end of the regular season and be ready for conference tournament play. But the hope was that he would play that 35-minute a game. Robertson would play 5 minutes in a backup role, but get it another 10 to 15 playing alongside Alvarez. So you got dual point guards out there, but it just hasn't happened that way.
Slauson inside on Bafuto, who commits the foul. The Robertson free throws brought us back to the difference we had at the half. So after trailing by close to 30, Neftali Alvarez having to sit and wait. Maybe he's back in game action by mid-February, but at least he's seen his teammates get this thing inside of 20 down, although Slauson goes to the line, 73% on the season coming in. Alvarez transferred here from Fairfield in the MAC and is really a difference maker in terms of their pace, how they play, and how they play really defensively.
No question. But back to Jalen Slauson here as he shoots a second free throw. Look at the improvement, right? 19 points as a freshman, and then each year a little bit better. But it's not just the scoring. We talked it in the first half. I mean, he leads the Southern Conference in steals. He's among the top 5 in assists and in block shots and in rebounding. I mean, he does a little bit of everything. He's improved his body. He's a player of the year candidate right now as we sit at the halfway point of conference play.
Walker hit a big shot a little bit ago, tried to step back, but Bafuto, 5 on the shot clock, has the size on Garrison and trying to get it over into the corner, but there was Hunter with another steal. Alex Hunter began the night second on this team. He's got 25 takeaways on the season. Bothwell from the wing. Robertson runs it down. Mercer getting more stops than they did in the opening half for sure, and earlier in the second half. Little pull up, can't get it to fall, but Bears not doing enough on the offensive end. They'll crawl a little bit closer.
No, you're right. They've had a couple of stops, opportunities to kind of whittle this thing to maybe the 15-point range. where it could potentially seem somewhat manageable, but unfortunately, they just haven't been able to score at the other end.
From the wing, Drake overshooting the basket. Hunter comes away with it. Foster on the drive, and the foul will be called.
Well, if for no other reason, that's a call the official was going to make just because Foster was out of control. I do think that the defense was set outside the arc. Foster just one of the few times he or any Paladin has put his head down really with nowhere to go. We've talked it in terms of how they just play an open, free-flowing break and half-court offense, but they don't get themselves in trouble. They know where the next pass is supposed to go, and 9 out of 10 times they make the right pass.
3 fouls on Foster, goes to the bench with 9 points. Another opportunity to get a little bit closer for the Bears. That time Bafuto couldn't handle the hard pass from Sean Walker. Walker, good guy to have out there, son of a coach, kind of a coach on the floor. He's got a really good basketball IQ, as you would expect.
Yeah, he is a lockdown defender. Hasn't shot it as well as the Mercer staff thought, but you're exactly right. High IQ guy, high energy guy.
Inside move by Heen, count it, and 1.
This may be as good as Garrett Heen has played in Southern Conference play this year. I mean, I said the first half, watch him post up here. I mean, with confidence. Ball goes in. He recognizes that the double team doesn't come. And so the nice spin move, footwork, and then finishes with contact. That's a really nice move. He just uses his size and quickness over Sean Walker Jr. But, you know, Heen showing that he's not lost any confidence as his minutes have gone down in SoCon play. And oh, by the way, a career 51% free throw shooter, looked really good on that make.
He's got 14 in the game. Lead back out to 24. Bafuto on the wing to Walker, who just picked up his 3rd foul. On the bounce pass, little finger roll for Victor Bafuto. Hadn't played in the past couple of games. He had 8 against Furman in the loss earlier this season.
And that's what Bafuto needs to do. Not only now, but kind of prepare for war in times of peace. He needs to get ready for the future, because he's going to be counted on as the Bears head into the second half of play.
Picks up his 2nd personal, and we've got a timeout on the court. The Furman Paladins in control. We're in Macon, Georgia. They're taking on the Bears of Mercer. Not have lost the other night.
Yeah, and look, we talk about the Southern Conference having good players and good coaches. Now, Randy Bennett, what he's done at St. Mary's to try to somewhat keep pace with the Zags. You know, Todd Golden, what he's done after taking over for Kyle Smith at San Francisco. Kyle Smith now at Washington State. Herb Sendek at Santa Clara. I mean, that is a multi-bid league this year, the West Coast Conference.
From the wing, Garrison can't get it to fall, and Harrison Drake comes down with the rebound. Mercer has gotten its fair share of stops over the last 5 minutes, but unable to do anything in terms of creeping back closer on the offensive end, and he knocked it away once more.
No, Furman has cooled off behind the 3, just 2 of 8 here in the second half, shooting 40% overall in this half.
Jordan Jones, looks like he got a hand on it. Tucker underneath, can't finish. Scrapping for the basketball. They got a new shot clock. Diego Rivera checked in moments ago, and he'll get the bounce.
Credit the Bears for just kind of sticking with that after Tucker missed an easy one inside. We talked about the West Coast Conference. The games on CBS Sports Network today, just fabulous, as Garrison goes down Main Street for really one of the few 2-pointers he has on the season. He's almost 80% of his shots are 3s. But you think about before us, VCU and Richmond in the Atlantic 10, and now a Southern Conference matchup. You go to the West Coast, and then you finish with a Mountain West.
Bafuto inside, knocked away. And Garrison basket moments ago cut into an 11-5 Mercer run. Furman this season, when leading at the half, is 12-2, but both of their SoCon losses coming when they led at the break. Does not look like that's going to be a trend that happens here this evening. Huey from way outside. He was just 1 of 7 from beyond the arc in his early Furman career coming into the night.
He's another Ohioan, another from the Buckeye State, Bothwell on this team. That staff has gone to the Midwest and gotten some really good players over the years.
Pegues, a freshman from Nashville, handling things. He's their point guard of the future. Furman team that's had only 3 starting point guards over the past 10 years. Talk about stability.
No question. We talked that Stephen Kroon was outstanding, followed by John Davis III, and then Alex Hunter. You're right, Pegues, Joe Anderson can play it. It's in good hands for this foreseeable future.
Something else Furman does that a lot of basketball programs on any level don't do is they redshirt a lot of guys, usually 2 a season. Look at Huey cleaning up on the Garrison miss.
Well, and you know, you're exactly right. I mean, they've had some guys that have. Foster's a guy that has really benefited from the transfer, or excuse me, from the redshirt rule. Although Noah Gurley, that's where I get this. He redshirted, had an outstanding 3 years on campus. Now he's at Alabama. And in this day and age of the transfer portal, that's something Bob Ritchie has to really manage. But he talks about work while you wait. And I don't know that they're going to get away from redshirting. It's just part of the culture of that program. And if you can recruit the right kid who wants to get better and knows that his time will come, it just may take an extra year. Hey, I love it. That's kind of old school. You don't see that much anymore. Everybody wants to have, you know, that instant gratification. And the minute they're not playing, they've got a coach or a parent or somebody in their ear.
Shannon Grant couldn't keep it in play. They tried to feed their massive big man down low. Give Furman credit, though, for the reason why Mercer just has never really had anything going. They did have that 11-5 run, but you never felt like they were threatening the comfortable Furman lead.
No, not at all. And it's, you know, it's been turnovers and just not shooting the ball straight for the Bears here. And really what I know is going to be disappointing for the entire team. Greg Gary knew the importance of this game as they filled this arena, as they trying to keep pace at the top, and now they kind of fall back into that middle group of really 3, 4, 5 teams, all trying to battle for the best seeding they can reach before they get to Asheville in the tournament.
Great high-low on Heen, getting it inside, and an N1 opportunity coming up. Timeout on the court. Dominant performance tonight for the Furman Paladins. They're up by 30. They're moving the basketball. Joe Anderson, Garrett Heen, and Tyrese Huey. A big lead presented by Chase Freedom Unlimited. Give you our AT&T game summary presented by AT&T 5G. And, well, the theme of it all is Huey can't get it to go, but the rebound inside by Foster. The true theme, dominant performance in just about every aspect by the Furman Paladins.
It is. I mean, across the board. I mean, you don't have to look at anything in particular. That 21 turnovers certainly stands out, as well as the points off turnovers, right? I mean, it's been a dominating performance by Furman, and while the Bears haven't given up by any stretch of the imagination, it's been hard for them to continue, you know, just their focus and energy and effort on a night where they've turned it over, they haven't shot well, and Furman has taken advantage. 19 assists on 26 field goals. I mean, just, it is the way the game is supposed to be played, and they continue to build momentum toward that February 12th matchup when Chattanooga will return. Now look, Bob Ritchie's going to tell you there's games between now and then, and each one carries significant importance. But
we almost got a whole lot of Tyrese Huey courtside where we are. And it's the power of the stereo net sound mics that we have working too.
You don't know the speed and the strength of NASCAR until you're in person, and it's similar when you're in a near accident in a basketball courtside.
I once worked with a coach that enjoyed and really built his program around players who he would always say long and athletic. And that's something about this Furman team. They have several players like a Foster, like a Tyrese Huey, that fit that category, and allows them to be so versatile. Anderson nearly took it away. Huey ties it up to Tucker.
Yeah, and it's versatile at the defensive end, and you talked about how they chart deflections, but it's also versatile at the offensive end, right, where they're able to get the shot off against maybe a shorter defender, where they can get, you know, second chance opportunities. There is clearly a method to their madness in recruiting, as you see a Hail Mary shot there with the shot clock going off.
Harrison Drake had to try to beat the shot clock. Greg Gary, there will be better nights for his team. They were the Cinderella story in the Southern Conference a year ago, and they made the run all the way from playing in the opening round on Friday night to taking on UNCG for the tournament championship on Monday. They were trying to complete the very difficult run of winning a game on 4 straight days. Foster again skies for the rebound, and fighting inside just into the game, Jalen Pugh, one of the veterans on this roster. From the outside, not going to fall for Foster, but cleaning up once more.
Huey, you're right. I mean, second chance. Pugh missed the 3, but then got the offensive rebound, gave another chance, and then Huey gets another rebound offensively. They just want it more right now, and they want to continue that effort and focus.
Shannon Grant inside. Finishes well on the block. They just have been unable to get it to him. And in the first half, he was out there for extended minutes, but they never could establish the inside game they were trying to make happen. Not that time for Huey. Battle for the rebound, Greco and Tucker, and eventually Mercer gets it back.
That is the 31st three-point attempt by Furman on the night, and that matches their season average.
Reaching foul by Foster. It allows Bob Ritchie to send in James Repass, a 6'10 freshman from Jacksonville, who was seeing extended minutes in non-conference play. Greg Gary's team about to lose for just the second time in 10 home games here at Mercer.
They have been really good inside Hawkins. This year we talked 8-1. They'll go to 8-2, but they've been good during his tenure. They were good when Bob Hoffman was here. And you said it, there'll be better days for Greg Gary. I just know he and his staff deeply disappointed in the performance in front of these fans and the national TV audience. But make no mistake, he's an outstanding. Just another guy. Think about that. He doesn't even play that much, and Pugh comes off the bench, and he continues that streak of made threes.
He's one of the many players that's come to the Furman program from the Atlanta area over the years.
From Cartersville High School.
Same high school as the guy who plays quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. In fact, they're very good friends, he and Trevor Lawrence.
That's exactly right.
Grant looking to back in on repass. And a foul call. Mercer Bears in the stretch of 5 games in 10 days, so they're going to have a real short memory to get ready for their Monday night contest.
Well, and that's tough. I mean, and look, it happens to a lot of teams. We're still in that age of COVID where there's postponed games, but you try to fit and make them up. And in a league that generally plays Wednesday, Saturday, the only time the conference office and the administrators at each school can find that time is on a Monday. And so you're exactly right. Greg Gary, he'll have to, they'll just throw this film away. Forget about it. Get up tomorrow and prepare for the Wofford Terriers on Monday.
Robert Swanson handling the ball, coming out of the backcourt for Furman. So everyone who made the trip has now gotten on the court, I believe, for this Paladins team.
The bench wanting Swanson to try to get a shot up as he turns it over.
Rivera change hands in the air. And flying in for the rebound, Ben Beaker for the Paladins, and now the turnover. Great job by Drake. Tucker feeding Rivera. Rivera to Greco.
That may finish the scoring, partner. As you see, Bob Ritchie kind of put up the stop sign with his hand.
Paladins won by 15 in the first meeting at their home away from home, the Well in downtown Greenville, South Carolina. Here tonight in Macon, Georgia, they will double that, come away with a 30-point victory and extend their run in the series to 15 in a row. And Bob Ritchie knows full well if he has to see Mercer again in the SoCon tourney in Asheville in March, he will see a Mercer team that'll be up to the task and show better than they did this evening. It's the Furman Paladins, though, who really put the pedal to the metal